Welcome to Little Bandology. I'm Josh,
And I'm Michelle.
and we're glad you're listening. This is episode 3.
Three.
Yes, episode 3. We are coming off the beginning of the week. We had, I don't know what it was called. It wasn't a full moon. It was like a
full supermoon with an eclipse, a partial eclipse. Anyways, the kids were crazy.
Oh, it was a rough evening rehearsal this week for us. They've
But really,
lost
all
their
the
minds.
classes were kind of
They were. Today we are going to talk about, this was a request from a listener, Jennifer Villarreal, very good friend of ours.
Hi, JB.
Teaches down in Roma ISD down in the valley. So we're excited to talk about this. This is something we have to do all the time. And it's about how we share our students, which every situation is going to be a little bit different. And both of us have had to share students in different size schools.
Yes.
So this not only would apply to little bitty Beckville, but up to probably 4A.
Right. Well, yeah, 4A is the biggest that we've taught in, so we wouldn't really know how to share bigger than that.
Yeah, 5A, 6A.
Probably be a little bit different, but up to 4A schools, which is still over 1,000 kids, right?
Yeah, 1,000 kids. Yeah.
So
For
not
sure.
really small, but not really small.
Yeah. The first thing that we do is we have to keep in communication. That's really the key for all of this. I mean, it's keeping the communication lines open, and that could be email. I prefer face-to-face.
I think it's easier face-to-face just because email can get, it just depends on how they read your tone, and so it's easier if you can look somebody in the eye and talk to them rather than send that email that they may read with this nippy tone or condescending tone or whatever.
I always read my emails with sarcasm.
The ones you write or the ones that you receive?
Both. So, but that's a big one, or text message in a pinch. Sometimes last-minute things have to be communicated, and sometimes that's the easiest way to do it, for sure. Well, the first thing that we do is make sure that we have everything on the district calendar way ahead of time, as soon as we know our dates.
That's really step one. In the band world, we usually have our dates far before any athletics events have theirs. So just putting those in there whenever the coaches start to put their dates in, then they can see immediately if there's going to be a conflict. Now, will they act on it? Not always. Sometimes we still have to go back and double check, but that's definitely the first step, just to make sure that your dates are out there where they can easily be found.
And understanding that just because, and I have a very hard time with this, just because they go on the calendar early doesn't mean that your date will be the most important.
Yeah, it's not sacred.
Yeah, and we put everything. We rehearse on Tuesday nights. We do like drumline after school, and then after that we do full band from 6 to 8:30. And sometimes our rehearsal can occasionally get trumped by things. For example, we have 8 through 12 in our high school band, and the bulk of them are 8th graders. Well, 8th graders play volleyball in Beckville. If you know anything about our school, is like volleyball is the thing. And it's been the thing for a very long time.
It's 3 state championships?
Oh my God, yeah,
Within
something
about
like
5
that.
years or
Yeah,
something like that.
and
It's pretty impressive.
there's a lot of pride in that. We take pride in a lot of things, but that one definitely, when I took the job in Beckville 7 years ago, that was a big one right off the bat.
I would say we're one of the few 2A size schools that has 3 different volleyball teams.
We do. At the high school, we have a varsity and 2 JV teams, and they go everywhere. If they can't find a game with one school,
they're going to find somewhere for the other team to go.
It's great. So our kids get to play all the time. But anyway, junior high plays on Monday nights, and we have 3 or 4 junior high teams. But our junior high plays on Monday nights. So if I rehearse Monday nights, I would lose
all those babies would miss out on marching rehearsal.
Yeah, 15 or 16. Whereas if I rehearse Tuesday nights, it's a high school game night, and we lose, I think this year we have 8.
Yes, that's kind of a high number. Normally it's not quite that many.
And we love to share our kids. Let me put that out there. We love to share our kids, but
we just have an understanding that those kids may or may not make it to rehearsal, depending on the games. If they're home, then we usually get both of the JV team kids.
And
And occasionally we'll get the varsity kid.
Yes, we have one varsity kid this year, and she typically does not show up to Monday nights, but she's a senior. She's a great player, all around, great student. And last night, Tuesday night, she came to rehearsal, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's so great to see you.
And she's so great because it doesn't matter how much time is left. If rehearsal is still going on, she's going to come down there and do what she can.
And we do have parents that will bus kids from away games after they finish to band rehearsal, and we didn't ask for that. That was 100% parents going, hey, let's go to band. And the coaches are like, we understand. Thanks. Good job. You won the game. Get out of here. And so we get those students sometimes Tuesday nights. But that's why we rehearse Tuesday nights, because it is so important that those new marchers, those babies, those 8th graders get the time on the field with the feet and the music and making sure everything lines up. Part of how we're able to do that is the head volleyball coach and I, we talk on a regular basis. And sometimes it's just about nothing, but we make sure to make an appearance and visit with each other. So that way that relationship is there. Because if you're just saying, I need my kids here, and there's no precursor or groundwork laid, sometimes you may not get them. And that's a bitter pill to swallow, I think. It is for me. And granted, this is something that we've been doing for a very long time, and it wasn't always. I used to be ridiculously hard-headed, and I hope so many people learn from my mistakes, but you never want to put the child in the middle.
Yes, we always try to, we don't want the child to be the go-between. So we always try to have those conversations with the adults so that the kid isn't left to make a decision. The adults are making the decisions for them.
Yes, and I never make a child feel bad, or at least I never try to make a child feel bad. Michelle's holding her breath over there. For doing whatever activity it is. Now, there is a fine line, because if it's a game, I'm not going to, like, we have a student that plays varsity football. He's a starter on the team. He is great. Our kids cheer for him. They have a special cheer for him, as a matter of fact. It's very precious, and the whole band does it. But I know that on Tuesdays after football practice, he's got to eat. He's got to cool off before he comes to us. And so we see him about 30 minutes into rehearsal, and that's okay.
He always comes in and he's ready to work. He works really hard.
And that's how all our football players are. And it varies from year to year as to how many athletes we have in any situation. But really the fall is when we have to work with the coaches the most.
Yeah, for sure.
And because volleyball and football and marching band are all very highly participated in.
Well, and our cross-country team has a ton of kids, too.
Oh, my gosh, yes.
So we just know, like, every Wednesday we're not going to have any cross-country kids in our class.
Yeah.
And so we kind of have to plan around that.
Yeah, we do.
And they have meets on Wednesdays.
And being flexible is a huge part of that, because it's very easy, if you're a type A person, to schedule out your rehearsals and say, every day I want to accomplish X, Y, Z. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't do that. Planning is important. But flexibility goes a long way. And just this week, I've had to change up my rehearsals because of things I found out at the last minute. And it's okay. We're still getting done what we need to get done.
I mean, there was frustration. But
there was frustration.
We're still getting the things done that we need to get done.
And the students understand that being flexible is a part of being a musician and part of being a band member. And really, it's a part of life. If you can be flexible, you can take on pretty much anything, at least I think. But in the fall, we keep our communication lines open with our coaches for sure, our administrators, because they need to know what's going on. My high school principal and I, my superintendent and I, we talk about schedules all the time. And we go over on a weekly basis, hey, this is what's coming up, this is what we're looking towards. They like to know dates far in advance. For example, state marching contests, they were ready to get those dates before summer even got out, just so they could put it on the calendar, even though I have a policy not to think about that.
Josh is superstitious.
I blame my first boss. I blame Nicholas Durham because he is ridiculously superstitious, and I adopted that from him, along with a lot of other things, good things, but definitely am superstitious. But anyway, so we try to get all of that out there. Now in the spring, it's really not athletics. We do have people that play every spring sport, but concert band is a little different.
It's our in-class, like during school time, that is a little more challenged during the spring season.
Yes, and so we have to make sure during spring season is the crazy time for our FFA chapter. And we have a very active FFA chapter, probably the most active in any 2A I have ever seen. They have students that compete in contests that you would not even imagine existed, and they win. So, I mean, it's really impressive. As a matter of fact, our son Noah is big into the FFA program, and so I know you guys have seen Napoleon Dynamite. You know,
Milk tasting.
the milk tasting. That is something called milk quality, and Noah does that. Doesn't have red hair, but he has curly hair. Yeah, and he's kind of tall and nerdy. I mean, that's a thing, and we have a team. And matter of fact, was the entire team, almost the entire team, were band kids.
Yep, it was just one
Yeah,
kid.
there was one kid that wasn't. So we have to make sure our schedules line up so we know. Our lead FFA teacher, her son is my first chair tuba. And so it's really easy for us to shoot texts back and forth or to call each other and say, hey, what's coming up? Or do you have anything on this date? I want to make sure we don't schedule something on top of something you have going on. And it works out pretty well. In the beginning, that was probably the hardest thing for me, was checking that calendar too. And so over time, I have trained myself to do that. So I don't look like the jerk when I go, well, I didn't know about that. Well, it was on the calendar. Something we also do with our students is we ask them to remind us. So that way, if they just drop by the office and they say, hey, Mr. King, just to remind you I have a contest on Thursday, I'll go, thanks for reminding me. I hope you do well. And then I make sure I ask when they get back. Caring a little bit about something you know nothing about goes a long way. And there are many things, especially in FFA, that I know nothing about. And I'm proud to admit it. And they teach me. And so now I know things I never thought I would.
Our district has kind of a priority priority map.
Yeah.
And so, for instance, our state marching contest this year falls on top of the last district volleyball game.
Yes.
And so volleyball just understands, because ours is a state contest, they're going to lose their volleyball players for that night. And, I mean, that's just the way it is, and they're okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if there was, you know, a state volleyball game on top of
A concert.
practice or
Or
a
a
concert,
concert or
obviously
something.
we would lose those kids, because that is a priority over what we're doing. That's not quite as high a level of competition.
Oh, definitely. Matter of fact, it was last year. We had a regional cross-country run that was the day before state marching contest. And so we wanted those students to be able to do that because it was like 3 or 4 band kids at that time.
3 big kids.
It's a lot more now.
Yes.
So Michelle took a school vehicle. She went down to the meet. She watched them run, cheered them on. They hopped in, and she drove from Huntsville to Waco. And they met us that evening, and it was great. We marched the next day, and everything was hunky-dory. Just keeping those communication lines open and looking ahead, we were able to make that happen without much of a problem. Something
and we also,
else.
Well, we left for state marching contest on that Tuesday afternoon.
Yes.
But the volleyball girls had a game, so we had a group of parents who,
That's right.
the volleyball kids, they played their game, and then the group of parents drove them to Waco.
Yeah,
so everybody was able to do what they needed to do.
That was the first round of the playoffs, I think. But yeah, we got our volleyball girls that night as well, and it was fine. I mean, you have to wear a lot of hats in small school, and that's just one of the things we do. In the summer, well, really in the spring, because everybody does summer practices, that first week of August is very sacred in Texas because that's the first week that football can practice. And I believe that's the first week that volleyball can officially practice. And so we don't schedule hardly anything that week. We do 1-2 night rehearsals, maybe.
Well, we try to have our main week of summer band the week before whatever week football starts.
Mm-hmm. And
just so we can get out of their way, so that they can have the field. But after that, we usually try to do 1 or 2 nights a week until school starts. And so football will be done, but so we can still use the field.
But as soon as I have my summer calendar, I send it to the coaches. As soon as they have their summer workout calendar for the entire summer, they send it to me, and we just kind of work around each other. So that way we can make sure that every student gets the time they need for everything, or at least most of the time they need for everything. There are times that, I hate to say this, you're not going to win when it comes to a child's time. It is very frustrating. It will make you want to
pull your hair
yell
out
and scream. I've already pulled all my hair out, so that's fine. I don't have any to pull. I guess my beard here, maybe. But in the end, it's what's best for the kids. And if you just focus on that, you'll be way ahead of the game. But it's a hard lesson to learn. I remember back to when I used to teach early on in my career, right after I became a head director, and I decided I was going to be all powerful and authoritarian when it came to my kids. And boy, that was tough. That was tough. I lost lots of battles because every hill was a hill I was willing to die on. And I died 1,000 deaths, easy. And now it's not as bad because I understand that not every kid is going to put band first. And that's okay because band's still in there and band's still important to them. Now, on another note, talking about junior high, it's a little bit easier with junior high for us.
I think so, yes.
With the exception of 8th graders. Really 8th grade volleyball. But as far as junior high goes for concerts and things, we don't schedule our concerts super early.
Right. We kind of wait on their schedules for concerts, and that's actually kind of a new thing. We didn't used to do it that way, but then we had to reschedule Christmas concerts several times for basketball games, and so we just decided at that point, let's just wait for their schedule to come out because the game is going to trump a concert anyway.
This is true.
And so we just wait for their schedules, and so they don't get the concert schedules ahead of time.
Usually, I mean, it's within the first part of school. We do it by
Yeah.
semester. Like our spring concert's already scheduled for the spring, and that one's the big one for us because everybody plays
so
in it.
That's a little bit, and that's a different situation because there's not. I mean, the only thing that's still going on at that point is baseball
And softball.
We can avoid those game days pretty easily.
And usually it's in the beginning of the playoffs, I think.
Right.
And so,
but those games are usually Fridays.
Yeah.
We're not gonna have a concert on
yeah,
Friday.
I think there was one year we did a concert in the spring that I lost my first chair flute player because she was a hotshot softball player, and it was kind of a last minute reschedule, and that was a little weird, but we made it work. And I think she actually showed up for a little bit of the concert, if I'm not mistaken. Christmas. Now, our 6th grade, they don't do a Christmas concert. They do a recital. And the reason why is because with every student in 6th grade being in band, doing a night thing and requiring it becomes sort of sticky and tricky. So we do a during the day recital and invite parents to it, and that's their big
Well, and we've also found
final.
that developmentally with their playing, we've found that works better for them. As far as like they can play a song or a little line out of the book or whatever that's more on their level, rather than learning Christmas songs that kind of sound like Christmas songs, but not really because you can't use a lot of notes. You know?
Well, and then it pushes your best kids too.
Right. They can do something that's harder than maybe they would have done on a Christmas concert.
Something that's really cool is our concerts. A lot of times, we have a very active youth sports organization in town, in Little Beckville. And it's a big deal. Most kids play some sport at that level, especially boys. Football in the fall and baseball in the spring. In the spring, we've had kids show up to the spring concert in their baseball uniform. They play their concert, and then they go play baseball. And it's cool to see them show up in their baseball gear, and a 7th grader sitting back playing tuba in the 6th grade looks up and goes, "Oh my gosh, that kid's
You
doing
can
both.
do
You can do both. And that's something that we preach we're pretty evangelical about that you can do both. And we start that from 6th grade. The kids know the first day, listen, you can do both. And we constantly preach that and show examples.
That's kind of been a paradigm shift in Beckville, because we
Yes.
have a lot of kids that come in and say, "Well, I can't be in band because I'm gonna play football or whatever." And we have to say, "No, dude, you can do everything. You don't have to choose one or the other. We all work together so that you can do as much as you want to do."
And we want them to be, and sometimes that's tricky because you will get a person on the other side, and sometimes it's a coach, sometimes it's a parent, sometimes it's just somebody that is close to the family that doesn't understand how band works or how the school works, that tells them, oh, no, you just need to focus on XYZ, and that's it, and make that your priority. And we try to express to the parents and the students, listen, you want to try everything because you don't know what you're going to be good at and what you're going to like. And you may think you may be the best, quarterback in the world when you're 12, but you may also be a heck of a percussionist or an amazing clarinet player, and you would never know that. And we also talk about how music can go with you your entire life. And so we show them videos of regional and community bands with 70, 80-year-olds playing their instrument. And they go, man, those people are old. Well, yeah, they started where you started. And having them understand, yes, you can do this. This is something you can do. And it also doesn't hurt on Friday nights to see, cheerleaders with instruments and football players with instruments and the mascot. Our son's the mascot, and he's a fantastic horn player. And so he goes out and grabs his instrument, and away we go. In order to build those relationships, now that's basically what we've talked about up until this point, is you've got to have those relationships and communication. But how do you start that? It really is just taking down the wall and going and saying hello. Mm-hmm. It seems so simple, but it's the hardest thing to do because it takes you outside of your little bubble, your little cave of your band hall. You've just got to go out and say, hey, we want to do this. Can we make this work?
Right. Well, and you have to kind of get rid of the stigmas of I don't want to ask because I don't want them to tell me no. Because if you don't ask, then they can't tell you yes.
And if the worst thing that can happen is you get told no, then that's really not that bad. Now, being told no every time can get a little bit disconcerting, but if you ever have a problem, you run into a scheduling problem, something that I have found, and it's not always easy, is when I go to make my case, I always try to have one or more possible solutions. Because if you go into a principal or an administrator, or even a coach, and you say, hey, I noticed a problem, this is how I think we can fix it, what are your thoughts?
You're more likely to get your way.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of times they'll go, oh, wow, well, thanks for looking ahead and providing a solution. That was great. And you get your yes in one way or another.
Yeah, we also kind of preach that to our kids.
Yes.
If you have a problem, we need you to also come to us with a solution for that problem. Your solution may not be the right solution,
mm-hmm.
but at least we know that you're thinking about how you can fix it.
Yes, because that's something that will help them on later in life. There's a word that we use, and we really haven't used it too much this year yet. And I'm not sure that's really a word. But you're the one that came up with it. Everything is figure-outable.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, we haven't used it much this year, but everything is figure-outable. And you just have to have a solution before you go in. But we share probably, I really want to take a picture. You know those pictures where they take a picture of everybody in their different outfits that are in band and then post it everywhere? I just want to take a billboard and just slap it up there. And, because we've got kids in...
I would say more than half of our band is involved in FFA.
Oh, easy.
And then athletes, we probably at least a quarter.
I would say a third.
Actually, maybe a third.
I think a third. Well, if you include all sports, I bet half. I bet half, and not necessarily the same half as FFA.
Right.
But we have a ton of kids at NHS. We have a ton of kids.
Cheerleaders.
Oh, over half the squad of high school and junior high. Twirlers, huh? Cheerleaders. All the twirlers are in band. Surprise, surprise. Both mascots are in band. Yeah. And both fantastic musicians. Theater, our one-act play kids are almost all band, but
I think
there's only one that's
kid
not.
that's not in band.
But Michelle and I also run one-act play. So, I mean, that's a whole different episode for sure, branching out. But we have a lot of kids that do a lot of things. And if you take away anything from this, communication, creating those relationships with the sponsors and the students.
Don't be afraid to hear no.
Don't be afraid to hear no, and be flexible. That's definitely a great approach, and understand that it is not going to be easy. If it is easy, stay in that school forever. And thank the good Lord that He put you there, because every school we've been in has been different, and we've definitely realized the grass is not always greener, and Beckville's not perfect, but it fits us. It works for us, and it's a lot of work to keep those communication lines open, but we do it, and we try to do it with a smile on our face. It's not always the easiest thing to do.
Once again, thank you for listening to Little Bandology. If you have any suggestions for upcoming episodes, be sure to email us at littlebandology@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at Little Bandology. We look forward to hearing from you and be looking out for our next episode.